Hello and welcome to Camp Tecumseh 2023 Bazaar Tecumseh. This is your final round. Thanks to our presenting sponsor Reaper Disc Supply and BS Upshot Tournament and Shop for running this tournament. We're in Pittstown, New Jersey, like I said, for round 2. And we are getting started here. I'm Dave Oster, here with Mike Grofsick. Mike, how's it going?
Oh, it's going well, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Of course. What do we have on the card for this final round?
So we have Elias White out in the lead a good ways at 6 under. David Giambra at -1. The only other person under par, Richard Sassaman and Robert Staas tied at even.
So a pretty close battle for second place. See if they can catch Elias. We do only have these 4 players in the MPO field, so no chase card winners today. We'll for sure be seeing the winner. And we'll get started here on hole 1, short 229, par 3 through the woods. Pretty straight shot with a hook at the end. Basket is on a mound, so not too much of a roll away can happen, but if you get it close, it could trickle away. And Elias will start us off.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see how he plays with the lead, if he plays a little bit safer or if he still attacks early on in the round.
Looked like we threw a pretty soft shot there, just hyzered out a little bit early. Should be able to get up and down. David also a little early, but sneaks through, and that's in the circle.
It's a little deceiving on the video, this hole. It looks like there's a pretty big gap, but when you're actually out there, it's a tight window to get through on that straight line.
Rick Sassaman up third, also going on the, looked like intentional inside line, and he'll have a putt maybe 30 feet.
Yeah, having any type of look at a putt here is not a bad result.
Rob going for the widest gap, a little bit of an Anheuser release, gets all the way up there, but just stops short in one of the last trees to miss. He'll have maybe a straddle putt. Ooh, Elias catching a early tree. Now he'll have to try to get up and down for a bogey.
And this will be interesting too to see, like I said before, see how aggressive he plays. Starting with a bogey at best could end up changing that game plan, right off the bat.
And right side chains. Just enough to catch in there. Good start for Rick. And real quick, going to have a 2-stroke swing off of the leader. Just a bit high there for Rob.
That was a good run at it. That was a good confident run there.
And David a step further than it looked on the first shot, but still able to capitalize that birdie and narrows the lead to only 3 strokes now.
Yeah, it definitely makes for a more interesting round, starting with a 5-stroke lead and then immediately after hole 1 turning into a 3-stroke. Definitely sets the tone for the rest of the afternoon. So we'll move on now to hole 2, which is a 317-foot shot. Pretty much dead straight. There is water through the middle. I believe it was casual during this tournament, but we will hopefully not see. Hopefully no one goes in there. But it's a good start here. Looks like he hits the gap pretty well. Oh, no, he finds his way down into that stream bank, but it looks like he stayed dry there.
Yes, and I do believe this hole was playing casual. The next hole was playing as out of bounds, so depending on which hole, they had different rules for the same creek.
And that is a fantastic shot, and he'll definitely have an inside the circle look there. Everybody seems to be hitting the gap pretty well. It's just a matter of how far down they can push it before it starts to hyzer out. And that one also makes it over the stream.
Anything over the stream here is a good shot. It's, again, still in the pretty tight woods. So getting a straight shot enough, even if you fade out, getting over the water. I'll give you some kind of look at it.
And Elias was looking to bounce back after the early bogey, and unfortunately, he did end up in the water. But as we said, fortunately for him, it was playing casual, so he should have a pretty easy par save, which he does there. Gets pretty much right under the basket. Nice little touchy forehand up into the bullseye as well.
And even if he just barely get over the creek, you can see Rob has a bit at it, just a little bit too much hyzer out of the hand. Rick with the best look at it.
See if we can come away with one birdie here on the lead and only card for the tournament. Good stop there. And we do get the birdie. Nicely done to Rick there, cashing in a birdie start. The only one on the card to get hole 2. That's got to feel good to start him off.
Absolutely. That's how you want to start, catching second place already, and 3 strokes closer to lead in just 2 holes. So definitely what you want to do if you're going to try to push for the win here.
Does definitely make for better viewing, seeing as how there is only the one card. It'll be nice if it gets, a little tight down the back stretch, and it can make for some very interesting disc golf. And then Elias is just going to tap out from about a foot away to round out the rest of the pars on the card.
Heading over to hole 3, one of the tightest gaps, if not the tightest gap on the course. You can see it kind of better from this angle. Forehand or backhand turnover shapes the fairway well. It does stay pretty tight all the way down, and there's, like we mentioned in the last hole, an out-of-bounds creek on the backside of the green. Green is almost playing as a little bit of a island, and we see Rick rolling all the way past it. And I believe that was an out-of-bounds stroke. We'll see if he was in the water. We couldn't quite tell. David definitely
that looks like it pulls up just before the creek there. This hole can be very tricky if there's any wind. It looks like the wind was pretty calm today, but it's really tough as we get an early tree hit there. With the backhand, you have to throw something flippy and get it to turn over late. So if there's any type of wind, that can really make you change your entire shot on this hole.
And you can see there that even if you get through that initial gap, it's still almost a poke and hope to get all the way up there. We saw 2 drives get really far up there. And Rob getting kind of lucky all the way through and staying in bounds, and he has a look to save his par now.
He definitely was flirting with that creek a little bit there, and he's lucky it hyzered out just in time.
Unexpected ground play. You can see it's very rocky here. And somehow Elias got all the way up there, going no more than a few inches off the ground. And there's a nice par save for Rob.
Yeah, the rocky underfoot is definitely a staple of this course. It is one of the things that makes it a little bit more difficult, is you can be right in the middle of the fairway in between the rocky underfoot and the fallen leaves. You can still have tricky footing.
And a nice par save there. And I think I must have been mistaken. This was also playing as casual. It does play differently in almost every tournament. It's up to the TD's discretion. So Rick went out of bounds, but was able to save the par there.
As we see David come up, unfortunately, just a little bit low on what looked to be only about a 20-footer.
So a couple of tap-ins, and then we'll be moving over to hole 4.
We see hole 4 here, which is a safari hole. It's playing to hole 5's traditional basket. You're going to have pretty much a dog leg left after about 120, 130 or so feet. So you're going to see most of these guys take a righty backhand hyzer, which is done pretty well right there. Unfortunately, ends right, it looks like right in the middle of a couple branches sticking out of the ground there.
Yeah, that'll be tricky.
The overall
footing.
shot was good. As we see David opting for the forehand play, which is not a bad play if you have it, because you can get potentially a little bit more distance if you get the right angle on it, which he does pretty well. He gets down there around the bend a good ways. But it looks like, again, unfortunately, right behind one of the many trees that line the fairway.
And I don't know what that disc was, but that was a very flippy disc. He started that on forehand hyzer, and it almost turned into a roller the other way.
Rob going for the more traditional righty backhand hyzer, and it looks like he kicks pretty deep into the tree line.
Rob seems to be just a little bit off his mark today. Just barely off his line, catching trees in the last couple of holes. Still hanging in there, but wants to straighten it out to push for position here.
And Elias is the one that, or the only one that seems to hit the traditional gap, down the traditional line, and that was a well-placed shot. As Rob goes right through the middle of a bunch of trees and manages not to hit anything, gets out pretty cleanly, and that's going to set him up pretty well for the approach shot.
Another pretty rocky green here, so your disc isn't going to get much ground play once you get within 80 to 100 feet. Kind of can't see it too well because end of the fall was when this tournament was, a lot of leaves. But you want to get it pretty close. Can't really expect your disc to do anything dependable in terms of ground play.
We see Rick here with that tricky footing, having to go from a knee. Looks like a pretty clean release, but it is hyzering out just a bit early. He's going to be probably deep C2, I believe, but we'll call it deep C2.
Yeah, and even with that, I think still the best birdie look is deep C2 on this par 4 at under 600 feet. So it's a tricky hole. It's a traditional hyzer line backhand, but it's not like a perfect. You kind of want to have a lot of hyzer and have it flip up and go straight. And then there's just kind of a lot of skinny lines for your second shot, depending on where you land.
And thanks to the very nice scramble shot, looks like Rob should have a fairly easy par there. Elias just a little bit off to the left, trying to cash his birdie.
Ooh, just off the band. Good bid for Rick. Have to settle for a par. As it's looking
Robert
like we're going to have for everybody on the card.
Par frame is, I would say, fairly common on this hole. It's one of those, like you said, it's an under 600 foot par 4, as David cashes in his par. So you'd think there'd be more birdies, but it's a tough couple of shots to throw. But due to the distance, not bogeyed all that often in the MPO division.
Yeah, definitely one that you can make up for a bad tee shot for. As we move over to hole 5 is traditional course hole 6, a short one up the hill. A couple different lines. You can go straight at it. You can go forehand, a little bit of a backhand turnover. You kind of see those 4 or 5 trees about 100 feet off the tee pad. Basically pick one of those gaps with a line that'll head towards the basket. Kind of like this, and you'll have yourself a putt.
Yeah, you either want to go, as we see David going with the forehand here, you either want to go something backhand straight up the middle, or if you opt for the forehand, you want to put it on, I was going to say more of a spike hyzer, so that it doesn't get too much ground play, and it looks like David unfortunately tries to keep it a little too flat there, going right at the basket, and it hyzers out.
I've even seen the forehand turnover through the right side. It flattens out as it gets to the basket, and that's worked as well.
It's definitely a good way to match the slope of the hill and not end up skipping away from the basket.
And everybody's gotten to about the same distance, maybe circle's edge. Going to be some tricky putts, and there's that forehand turnover. And flattens out, but kind of catches that stump. So everybody's going to have a similar length putt. David a little bit longer than the rest. Not able to get it quite high enough.
Rob well off there, wanting to extend his par streak to open the round.
Ooh. Uncharacteristic miss. This whole slope of the fairway all the way up to the green is more dramatic than it seems on camera. So these are still pretty uphill putts. And Rick able to make the correction. Third birdie in 5 holes.
It does look, going off the flag, like they were putting into a bit of a headwind there, so maybe Elias, missing low, was expecting a little bit of lift on the putt, as it appears to be calming down now.
Oh, Rick gets another one on the card. We have hole 6.
So hole 6 is a 755-foot par 5, so again, not a massive distance for a par 5, but there are a couple of tight gaps to get through. You have to throw very specific lines, and you can't really go for max distance on any of them. So the par does match up pretty well with the difficulty of the hole, even given the relatively short distance on a par 5, as Rick catches an early tree.
Yeah, I think your tee shot is very important here, and it's very important for placement because too far right and you're going to be kind of in this thick stuff, maybe have difficult run up, and your lines aren't going to be very straight. Too far left, it's also just not a lot of clean looks back up towards the fairway. It generally doglegs from right to left all the way down, so you want to kind of stay middle to right side, kind of right around this, and stay right side near the field's edge as you approach on your second and third shots.
And that was excellent from Robert. That's pretty much, like you said, right where you want to be. You're certainly not going to have any complaints about that tee shot on this hole. As Elias follows suit, but gets a little bit further, which is going to give him a nice angle. It is there. It doesn't look like it through all those trees, but the angle is there. That he'll have a look at it.
And you can see from this shot, there's a lot more open space out to this right side as Rick takes it a bit too far right and gets a horrible tree kick and roll. Not great, but yeah, right around where he is or more straight just gives you more room to work with. Elias got more distance, like you said, but the lines are a bit tighter over there.
And I actually think Rick, based on the way he hit and rolled, he might not have gained any ground at all to the basket on that shot. Very unfortunate deflection into a roll. Recovers well there, though. Gets some about halfway up to the basket from where he was, most likely.
Yeah, that was looking nice. Definitely still had some steam left heading towards the basket. Unfortunately caught that fallen log. But should be able to get up and down from there. Again, like you said during the whole preview, just difficult to get a lot of distance on any shot. It's a good par 5 in that. It's just more placement. Try to chip your way up there. And you see even your last approaches, there's really not a clear fairway. You're just trying to find your way up there, as David does pretty well. Giving himself maybe a 25, 30-footer.
Yeah, and that's kind of the staple of this course, and it's why it's one of the most popular courses in New Jersey. Is it's not a huge bomber course. You don't need 400-plus feet of distance to do well at this course, but you have to hit your lines, and it makes for some very fun disc golf.
Absolutely, and Rick taking it real wide out left, trying to just find a line he was comfortable to throw, and just catches one of the last trees. Does kick back down to about circle's edge. And that was a nice approach for Rob there.
Yep, he looked like he got to just about edge of bullseye as Elias throws a little touchy, nice little touchy forehand into the bullseye, and we'll have a very easy tap out there.
Rick, almost. This putter's been pretty good so far. Just an inch or two short there.
Would have been a heck of a save after his first couple shots on the hole, as David is off again to the right side on his C2 putt. And Elias will card his first birdie of the day to get his round on track. Robert with the tap out birdie. Very nicely done from him. Having a tap out birdie on this hole is not an easy feat. A very well played hole from Robert. And Rick will tap out his bogey, which I believe is his first of the day.
I believe you're right. As we head over to the 7th hole of this round and hole A for the course. If you ever played at Camp Tecumseh, there's 3 bonus holes, A, B, and C. Today we'll only be playing A, and it's to make up the lost hole from combining 4 and 5. And it's pretty much a straight little bit of a turnover if you go to left gap, or a straight hyzer or forehand turnover to go through the right gap to a fairly high hanging basket right on the edge of the field. So if you go too far, you'll have a clean look back at it, but if you get caught up early, you'll have probably an obstructed look at it. Pretty short. I'm not even sure if that 319 is accurate.
Yeah, my guess would be not. I think it's definitely got to be shorter than that, because you see these guys throwing almost more of a touchy forehand as opposed to a power one.
Yeah, I'd say probably closer to 250 at most.
And that is a very nice shot from Rick to bounce back after his bogey on the previous hole. He'll have a short look at birdie.
And Elias just a quick upshot just to get over that one fallen log. He'll have a short putt for his par. Nothing's really given on a hanging basket, though, especially elevated.
Yeah, and Robert with a nice birdie there to go back to back and get his round moving in the right direction after a long string of pars. David cashing in on the birdie as well. And
Confidence.
Rick with the short one.
Confidence of a backpack birdie putt for Rick. Gotta love it.
Then we have hole 8, 330 feet. The basket is pretty straight from the tee pad, although you can't see it here because it's around this line of bushes. So you do have to throw either a right-hand backhand turnover or forehand, again, if you're throwing right-handed, which all of our players are.
And this is a tough one. You see how much room there really is, but it's at such an angle and such a distance that unless you have the power of this forehand to swing it all the way out, the backhand turnovers tend to just catch those late limbs. You really need to take it out wide and have enough turn and enough height to give it time to get the distance before it comes back in toward the basket. This has a lot of angle and gets most of the way there. You know, if the little straighter, that's getting within 30 feet, but that's probably about as best as most backhands will do. Again, if you have the power to throw the forehand, you can just avoid the branches altogether. And pin high for Elias, that forehand.
Yeah, the righty backhand turnover is a very difficult shot on this hole because you can't really tell from the video, but there is a very steep downhill slope. So if you hang it out too wide, you could start to turn it over too much, and then it'll really run down there on you.
Ooh, looking good. Just a bit too high and right. Yeah, same for Rick.
I've had a few times today where everybody's kind of missed in the same direction. The first person putts
Oh,
too low, and then another one.
yeah, playing
Those are
follow the
too high.
leader. Just a bit left side for Elias. And David still has some work to do for his comebacker.
That's going to be tough for Elias as well. I'm sure he didn't feel great about that one. It was a chance to extend the lead on a relatively easy C1 putt, so he'll be disappointed he wasn't able to take advantage of that after a nice tee shot.
Yeah, and that slope you mentioned, he was staring at it. Maybe it was in his head a bit. And luckily, he did catch enough metal to slow his disc down, but that could roll a long ways.
It looks like we'll probably see another par frame here, as long as nothing crazy happens on these very short tap outs. And Robert will probably just drop this right in, so that will put a cap on the par frame for the card.
As we move over to the final hole of our front nine, hole 9, 523 foot par 4, a sloped left to right, basically a field. Throw it as far as you want, wherever you want, and then your second shot is really a touchy shot. You can see the gap in those two sets of bushes up there. Either go through or over them to a basket that is on the mound. So it's as big and open as the field. It is more of a placement shot to get you to where you're comfortable, either with a forehand or a backhand turnover. The farther down the hill, the closer to the basket you are, but usually the tighter of the angle you have coming into the green.
It's been an interesting mix from David today. He's gone a solid mix of backhand and forehand off the tee, whereas a lot of the other players are kind of sticking with one method. So it's definitely a good part of his game, the well-rounded tee game.
Yep, absolutely. And I don't mind the forehand here at all. If you get the right angle, it'll finish towards the basket, regardless of how much distance you get. But the backhand, it's almost the full distance of the hole, 523 feet, that you can throw to get pin high and then still have 200 feet in. So if the backhand gets you the distance, that works, or the forehand to head towards the basket, that works as well.
And that was almost perfect from Elias. If it beats that last tree, he cut off his angle by a big amount, and he would have only had about 120 or so feet in. But unfortunately, he got stuck in the rough there a little bit, although he will probably still have a decent look at it from that close.
Another big wide turnover for Rick, and just a little bit too much. He'll be in the woods, but that's probably circle's edge or just a couple steps in for his birdie. This looks a
And the
bit
upshot definitely
sawed off.
sets up better for the forehand, although, like you said, he sawed that one off a good bit.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely more room out there, but you got to get it to stick. With this hill, you land on the left side coming in, perfect, but right side you likely get a big skip into the woods.
And you can't really do it much better than Elias did there. He's about 5 feet away.
Yeah, despite going into the rough, he'll have a short birdie look. Ooh, Rob almost ringing one up. We've seen Rob quite a few rounds recently, and that looked like one that he would normally hit. Oh, just an inch low for Rick to go 4 down on the round, even with a bogey. He's definitely on pace. Tied with David, but started further back, so he's definitely on pace to try to catch Elias on the back nine. Opens up a bit more, so we'll see who has the stronger field game. But everybody's still really in it. I could see anybody still winning this tournament. So
Yeah, I think Elias's slow start helped keep everything bunched a little tighter, although he has done well in the last few holes to gain back a couple of those strokes that were gained on him early in the round. As he taps out his birdie.
Yep, one more. So one down on the round. But everybody else, like we were saying, is pretty close.
And scores can change a lot on the back nine. It's definitely more scoreable overall. So if somebody gets hot, they can definitely close down some strokes. So it will be interesting to see.
Absolutely. And you can see we have spots for sponsors for our 2024 season, supporting hole sponsors, presenting sponsors. If you're interested, info for that will be down below. But here at Camp Tecumseh, we've got 9 more holes to determine our winner. So check us out over on the back nine, and we will see you over there.